Thank you. Good morning, members, and welcome to this meeting of the Pensions Subcommittee and Board. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be made available for viewing through our Council's website. Remote participants, please follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off your video when you're not addressing the meeting. Right, and speak in the Teams chat function when you want to contribute. If you're in the hall, you can do this on your iPhone or iPad. Please don't repeat contributions already made by other members. No material should be posted in the chat function if it is intended as part of the discussion. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting, please either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time or leave in the Teams chat function and then join when you rejoin the meeting, so we can keep track on whether the meeting is correct. All members should speak clearly, taking their time and speaking directly into the microphone when making contributions. When referring to reports, please provide reference to the relevant page and paragraph to allow everyone to follow. Please focus contributions on areas where clarification is required or to propose an alternative to a recommendation. We have several important reports to consider today, and I anticipate and hope we will deal with the business in our usual efficient manner, noting that there is another committee on this afternoon and we will need to be concluded by 1:30. Could we have the sediment apologies for the Pensions Subcommittee, please?
No problem, thanks, Chair. So in addition to yourself, we've got, I think it's 7 members here present from the subcommittee, of whom 4 are in person. So we've got yourself, Chair, the Vice Chair, Councillor Hislop, got Councillor Campbell and Councillor Thompson. Online we've got 3 members, being Councillor Dorward, Councillor Dryborough and Councillor McGregor. And 1 member not present, being Councillor McFarlane, but I think he's hoping to join us later on.
And I give my approval for remote participation. Could we have the sediment apologies for the Pension Board?
Thanks, Chair. So we've got 5 members of the Pension Board here. We've got 3 in person, being Councillors Beretti, Councillor Johnston and Moira Weatherup. On Teams, we've got 2 members, 2 members of the board, being Phil McGrogan and Councillor Walters, and 2 apologies, being Helen Croney and David Stainthorpe.
Thank you, and again I give my approval for remote participation. Do we have any declaration of interest for the Pension Subcommittee? No. Any declarations of interest for the Pensions Board? No. So, minutes of the previous meeting of the Pensions Subcommittee on 7th of March 2024, are we happy to approve those? Great, thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting of the Pensions Subcommittee and Pension Board on 23rd of April 2024, are we happy to approve those? Great, thank you. So we'll now move on to item 7, internal audit assurance for 2023-24 and the plan for 2024-25. This report is being brought before members with an update on the work undertaken by the Council's internal audit team on areas relating to the pension fund and the annual internal auditor's assurance statement. Previously, this report was presented to the Council's Audit and Scrutiny Committee. However, external audit recommended that a specific report to the subcommittee was best practice. Richard Fox is available to answer any questions members may have. And Richard, do you have anything you want to add to the report?
No, thank you, Chair. I think you've just given a good introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. So we open up to questions. Has anyone got any questions on the internal audit? Moina?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask in relation to page 21, 4.18, it refers to the plan to do a review of their governance and risk management in relation to concerns raised by the board in September 23. And I just wanted to check, were the concerns that were raised by Audit Scotland in their report in September 23 part of that planned work? I know there was reference to a constitution or a model constitution being prepared for the Pension Subcommittee, and I just want to check if that would be included.
The purpose of this piece of work, as you may be aware, we're required to provide assurance to the Pension Subcommittee and Board through our annual statement on the governance and risk management arrangements in place for the pension fund. So that's the primary purpose of this piece of work. As to what's included at this stage, I haven't got to that stage of issuing an audit brief to officers, but certainly I will consider the Audit Scotland's suggestions as well as your own concerns to provide that assurance, but we haven't yet drafted the audit plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard Moynihan. You want to come back?
No, it was just to flag up that that had been one of the concerns that had been raised by Audit Scotland. And can I check, is this report that's being presented today in reference to one of the recommendations from that Audit Scotland report for the internal audit report to come to the subcommittee?
To be honest, I'm not sure. It was just, as you may be aware, I've taken over from my predecessor and decided it would be better to actually appear before you in person rather than provide assurance through the council, which we've done previously.
My understanding more is in relation to that. Karen, do you want to?
Yeah, I confirm that it is. It does address one of the points raised by external audit as well, that there's a sort of specific internal audit plan and opinion for the pension fund as opposed to it being included in the council. So it kind of addresses best practice and the auditor's point from last.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thanks, Chair. 4.6, it talks about the two bank accounts and that they were operating effectively but would benefit from more central oversight. I'm just wondering what's the situation with that now, and has that been taken forward in a certain way? And what would that look like in terms of that improved oversight? Thank you.
Thank you. Richard, can you help with that?
Thank you. First of all, there has been a follow-up report to the Council's Audit Risk and Scrutiny Committee recently to reassure members that actually in banking arrangements that central oversight now exists through Karen. Because previously the bank reconciliations have been done in different places within the council, and we were keen that one person should be responsible, have overall control of all council and indeed pension bank accounts, which is now Karen herself. So yes, these arrangements are in place. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's good to get that reassurance and reminder. But in terms of the governance and management arrangements at 4.16, it says that no internal audit work was undertaken then. Would that new arrangement feature in a future piece of work that might look at the governance and management arrangements, given the change in oversight?
I'm not entirely sure what we mean. We didn't do any for last year, it wasn't part of our audit plan, but certainly each year in the future we will consider risk management and governance as part of the annual assurance statement. Now, whether we have to do a specific piece of work for that every year or whether we're able to rely on discussions or dialogues with officers, that would depend on a year-by-year basis. But for this year, we are planning to do a piece of work. Thank you.
Chair, it was just on the fact that 416 says no work had been done, but I think it's been covered that it is part of a planned process rather than just a case that we didn't do anything this year, we might do something next year or whatever.
Any further questions? Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, page 2411, it mentions that there was 5 records relating to deceased members, and 414, just over the page, it says that the administrating authority will procure the services of a mortality screening and member tracing service. Well, I've no objections to that, but you know, in recent sort of months we've been getting a lot of data breaches, and if we're going to go externally to another company, how safe is our or how secure will the data be? I do know that we get assurances from companies when they do bid into things like this, but however, there are concerns when it comes to people's data. Thanks, Chair.
I'm sure the due diligence will have been carried out, but Richard?
I haven't actually been involved in the procurement of looking at the pensions dashboard. In the council itself, there's an information management group which has overall oversight for ensuring that data is secure within the council. And obviously they're very well aware of recent issues in the local area. And as part of the procurement, I'm assuming this will be considered, but I'll make sure it is. Thank you.
Thanks for that assurance.
Thank you. What stage is this procurement process for this?
It's the administration side that are leading on it, but as far as I'm aware, it's not been procured yet. It's something they want to procure to take the next step in their journey to data improvement and the data quality assessment. So it's one of the areas that they think they need to do just to check some of those records. So as far as I'm aware, it's not procured yet. And just to sort of say what, to reaffirm what Richard said, absolutely, like data security is a like key part of any sort of procurement contract that's issued. There's sort of standard one, and particularly in areas like this where there is sensitive information transfer, and there will be significant sort of clauses in there around data security. So be assured by that.
Councillor Campbell?
Yeah, just to come back on that. In the news recently, there was another hospital. I think it was in London, St Thomas's or something like that, and it wasn't their data breach, it was the company that they employed to do bloods, sampling and stuff like that. So although we do get assurances, external companies do worry me, but I don't know if there's something that we can do ourselves to, continue with that particular side of it, where we're trying to chase up, people that are probably died and still getting a pension but haven't been informed of the pension fund. But like I say, I have no issues of actually going externally. However, we should recognise that it tends to be the external companies that have the data breaches and not the likes of ourselves as a local authority. Thanks, Chair.
Like I said, I'm sure that'll be part of the procurement process to make sure safeguards are in place. Stuart Clanahan, do you want to come in?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, absolutely. Just to join the conversation there, and we're currently looking at the opportunities and the options for mortality screening services, which there are a few providers nationally. I think it's absolutely right just to reaffirm that due diligence is incredibly important. We do hold a significant amount of sensitive data within the administration team, and we're acutely aware of those high controls that need to be put in place. That will be no different as we look to secure a mortality screening service in the future, and we'll make sure that we take the appropriate advice and the professional expertise as we go through that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Is there any further questions? Nope. In that case, we'll move to the recommendations. So we've been asked to, one, note the internal audit work completed for 2023-24. Two, note the outcome of the National Fraud Initiative exercise for 2022-23. And three, receive the internal audit manager's annual assurance report for 2023-24. And four, note and comment on planned work for 24-25. So we're happy to do that. Thank you. So now we move on to item 8, the Fleece and Galloway Council Pension Fund unaudited annual accounts. This report presents to members the unaudited annual report and accounts. Members are being asked to note and consider these accounts, which will then be submitted to Audit Scotland for external review. Audit Scotland will then bring a report on their findings to the September meeting of this subcommittee and board. Karen Donaldson and Ross Fraser are here to assist with any questions. So I'll open to questions. No. It's quite a heavy read, the unaudited accounts. Right, if there's no questions, we'll just move to the recommendations. So members are asked to note and consider the pension fund's audited annual report and accounts for the financial year ended 31st March 2024, which is in the appendix, and will now be submitted to the external auditors for review. So we'll move on to item 9, Pensions Administration Strategy 2024 to 2028. This report provides members with a refreshed 4-year administration strategy for the fund. The strategy summarises the aims and objectives of the administration team along with monitoring and reporting arrangements. Stuart Clanahan, HR Manager, is in attendance to answer any questions any members may have. Do we have any questions on that? Oh dear, we all seem very keen to be away. Councillor Walters.
Sorry, I forgot to write to speak. Morning. I was just picking up on the conversation we had before about cyber security. Page 42 on our papers, which is page 6. There's 2 lines about cyber security. I just wondered if perhaps Stuart could just clarify what that actually means. That it says HPT systems are certified to ISO 2001, externally audited every 6 months. What that actually means for the pensions going forward. Thanks.
Stuart.
So thank you, Councillor. We've had our electronic systems, as members are aware, for a number of years, probably for as long as I've been in pensions, and the field of pensions providers nationally, they have the highest level of controls and systems in place to protect the data, and that cuts across not just local government but also UK government systems as well. So rather than necessarily understanding some of the technicalities around it, what I can give that assurance around that our systems and our processes are of the highest standards available in the UK and probably the world, and the system that holds our data in particular is also invested in over 90 other funds in the UK. And therefore there's an incredible security history with that organisation, and a high level of confidence for me as the pension scheme manager, as well as providing that assurance for members. So we are in a good place. We'll continue to be in a good place, and obviously I'm aware of all the issues in terms of cyber security out there in the world and locality as well. So it remains a high priority. It's one area of our business that we will not drop our standards on, and that very much plays into our strategy there. It's our blueprint document for our vision and aims and objectives for the future, and it shows our direction around digital in terms of launching the dashboard that's already been mentioned this morning as well. So we're very much on that digital journey. It's where we need to be, but we will never lose sight of the requirement to maintain the high standards of security for our data. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Are you reassured with that, Councillor Walters?
Yes, thanks very much, Stuart.
Councillor Dorward.
Good morning, members. Stuart, thanks for the report. Probably a minor question, but for me quite an interesting one. Appendix 5, page 51 in my report, it's about data management plan. And I see a lot of the due dates are for the 30th of this month, which is 5 days. Hence, do we have the capacity to do this, and are we progressing it so that the information will be ready by the due date? Does that make sense? Yeah? Thank you.
Yes, it does, and thanks for the question. Absolutely is the answer. So we have a continuous data management plan, and every year we bring information forward for scrutiny and consideration to members around the progress that we make in terms of the quality of that data. It's been put forward by the pensions regulator. The pension regulator nationally is really keen on ensuring pensions administration services have got data quality at the centre of their business. We have that, and we've had it for some years now. So this is a rolling programme, and those quality data checks that are labelled in the report, that work will already be in train and being progressed. And as I say, it's something that we do all the time, and it's not just something that we do periodically. So very much when I bring a further update to members, which is the actual update, the here and the now, about how successful we are against those targets, you'll be able to see the good progress that we're making. Thank you.
That's great, Stuart. Thanks so much. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Stuart. Phil McGrogan.
Thanks, Chair. This isn't a question as much as where give credit where credit's due. I deal an awful lot with various pension groups and people asking for support. And what I can say, particularly with regards to the member communications, with regards to the strategy that's here, is that the availability for members to access and get good information with regards to the pension is top notch. And this isn't me blowing smoke up because the HR manager's here as well. This is me, as I say, where credit is, credit's due. Because as I say, I deal with other employers, and trying to get pension information from members is an absolute nightmare. So well done to Stuart and his team on this member communication side of this strategy.
Thank you, Phil. Councillor Thompson.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, it was just a question on the discretions. So I think on page 45 in the actual sort of document, talks about there'll be a report coming to a future meeting of this subcommittee to look at discretions. Can you say any more about that just now, please? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Thompson. That's in a roll forward programme, as I understand it, towards the end of this year. We'll bring something back. As you can see, it's quite a complex area. There's a number of discretions there that need to be updated and reviewed periodically as well. So that's the roll forward plan. So hopefully I'll have something to bring back to you towards the end of the calendar year.
Thank you. Do you have any further questions on that? Moira?
Thank you. It's just in relation to one of those discretions on page 58. And this is in relation to members purchasing additional pension contributions. It refers to applications to purchase APC, SCAPC in a form other than lump sum payment may require to be supported by a satisfactory medical arrangement. And I just wanted to ask, what are the circumstances where a medical certificate is not required?
So the rules around the medical certification is around protecting the pension fund. When individuals jump onto an APC contract, then if there's subsequent ill health, then the contract's deemed to be paid in full. So we historically as an organisation have always looked at those safeguards, and many other pension fund authorities do the same. So it is effectively a safeguard for the fund, because there are rules and regulations that would entitle people to certain benefits at certain points in the future. And it's part of the kind of good governance guide that we have. Thank you.
Thanks, Stuart. I think the question was around when would there be exemptions to that, I think.
It's just, I suppose, the use of the word may require. It suggests that some people may not need to provide a medical certificate, and I wonder whether that wording, if it must be always provided, whether that can be clarified, because we do get some questions from members about that, and I think for members it can be a bit off-putting to think they need to get a medical certificate to put money into their pension.
Yeah, so the regulations refer to May. In fact, the same regulations refer to May when it comes to producing a pensions admin strategy that's presented today. But as our pensions administering authority, and we take our direction from committee, but we decide that the terms of reference, and if May is there, then we can require certain things. So within our own terms of reference, if you like, we require medical certificates to be presented. So far, I've not had any indications from the team that causes any concerns to anyone who's coming forward to join the APC scheme. It sounds like you might have. So I'm happy to kind of hear about those, and we can have a discussion about those, because that's certainly something that we can bring back for member consideration as part of the refresh of the discretions.
Thanks, Stuart. Moira, are you content with that? Would you like that information?
Yeah, I think that would be useful to have a discussion on it separately, just what is the form of that medical certificate, because it may be a straightforward letter from a GP, which is straightforward, but I'm aware with another pension scheme that a GP wasn't able to provide the letter. You know, they hadn't had requests like this before, so it was just trying to make that a bit more of a transparent process for members so they understand what's needed.
Thank you. And Stuart's going to take that on board. So have we any further questions on that item? Nope. So we're asked to agree the pension administration strategy 24 to 28, and as in the appendix, we're happy to do that. Thank you. Pension fund update and emerging issues. The standing agenda item provides an update to members on the current and emerging issues relevant to the pension fund. This report highlights the progress being made in the implementation of the fund's updated investment strategy since the last meeting of this subcommittee and board. The paper also seeks the agreement to continue being a supporter of Climate Action 100+, recognising that this now requires the fund to be a member of one of the investor networks of Climate Action 100+. There is also a brief update on reviews which will have an impact on the fund. Karen Donaldson and Ross Fraser are here to answer any questions any members may have. Karen, do you want to add anything to that?
No, not at this stage. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Page 70, 4.8. It says here, at the time of joining this was offered at no cost to the fund. This is in reference to the Climate Action 100+. It just says, however, this route of membership is no longer available. I'm just wondering what was the reason for that. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Karen, do you want to? Ross, I think.
Thanks, Councillor. We were a member of the Scottish Asset Owners Round Table, which was itself a member of one of these participating networks. However, the organisation that runs Climate Action 100 has asked that all funds are a member direct with these networks rather than via proxy by being a member of another organisation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that clarifies that. I mean, we are being asked to fund £2,700. It's in the report and it's in the recommendations. I've got no issues with that. Just on a second point, if I may, Chair, back to page 69, 4.2, when we're making a £75 million commitment to BlackRock. I think so far we've got 39 million to date invested. And there's future capital calls of totaling 36 million. Just wondering, where's that 36 million sitting at the moment, and are we making any money on that?
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. So can we confirm we're actually getting a return on this money that's in limbo?
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Campbell. So with regards to the 36 million, what we've got at the moment is an arrangement where BlackRock will give us an indication of what they're due to draw down in the next quarter, and that's held in cash within the pension fund bank account. So that's currently getting 5.1% interest, so it's getting a good return. And then anything that's not immediately needed for investment is still held. You'll remember when we made the decision to go into BlackRock Safe, we were removing or reducing our exposure to UK equities, which has been fully implemented, and now the global equity, just to bring that back down to target. So the remaining amount of the 36 million is still invested in global equities, and as we see the Hymans-Robertson report later on in the agenda, you can see we are still overweight in equities for that reason, that we're awaiting the full drawdown from BlackRock.
Thank you. Any further questions? Moira?
Thank you. Just in relation on page 71, 4.13, it refers to the progress with the governance review. And I just wanted to ask where we are with that in terms of the scope and the costs for the independent external review that was discussed as part of the Short Life Working Group.
Yeah, we did start making some contact around an external review. However, like as we mentioned, as part of the internal audit report, through discussions with the head of internal audit, they were internal audits needing to do governance review as part of their work. So we thought it would, rather than sort of spending money going externally, that we could have that internal independent review done as part of the internal audit report. Otherwise, we'd have an external person coming in looking at the same documentation as internal audit are needing to get their assurance. So I thought it would make sense to allow internal audit to do that independent review, because they've not been involved in the discussions to date. So we would pass over all the minutes of previous meetings, all the draft documentation that's been prepared, and allow them to come to a view as to whether they deem that to fit with the regulations. I thought that seemed a pragmatic way forward.
Thanks, Karen. Moira?
The board was of the understanding that we were looking to get a report back on that independent external review. So I think as a board, we probably need to discuss that separately, but thanks for that information.
Thank you. Have you any further questions? Councillor Thompson?
It was just a quick one on moving to different strategic asset allocations, and particularly in terms of global products. So every so often at the moment, because of various conflicts or other political issues around the world, there'll be lists of companies that are deemed to be, right, you don't invest in those because they're now sort of sanctioned effectively. So it might not necessarily be in the likes of Russia, it could be China or India or somewhere that's sort of associated. So I'm just sort of wondering how ahead of the game are we through our investment vehicles in terms of not being put at risk by those particular factors, where it might take a government announcement from the States or something and then suddenly that asset's no longer liquid, if you like, or there's an issue. So it's just to get a wee insight into that. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're keeping abreast of these sort of issues, Ian.
So a key way we manage this is that in the global equity fund we invest in and the global corporate bond funds, they are very much tilted towards responsible investment issues. So if there are companies out there known to be big kind of ethical or ESG issues, then they'll either be downweighted or excluded by those funds that we invest in. It doesn't completely protect us from it. So some of those funds will have invested in some Russian companies, for example, before Russia invaded Ukraine. So then after that, we would have then been investing, we would have been caught in that and not able to sell those holdings. So it's not perfect. But ultimately, that's because no one was able to see that that eventuality was coming. So the way we're staying ahead of the curve is doing everything we can through the legal and general ESG tilted funds that we invest in.
Yeah, so I think we probably did think we were investing safely through the Baillie Gifford vehicle, but I know Baillie Gifford seemed to get affected quite a lot by their holdings in Russian assets at the time for a lot of their products. But I suppose we can't really foresee what happens. We can just sort of guess that, well, we think they're quite good, but if they happen to be in China or India and a separate company supplying telecoms or something like that, then they could just be, well, actually you're supporting some kind of Russian initiative, so therefore you're blacklisted kind of thing. So we don't really know until it happens that that's going to happen, eh?
Yeah, exactly right. And what we could do is make a decision that we don't want to invest in those countries that we as view as quite high risk, but it can be difficult to implement. And then there's always the chance that those countries go into those issues and you could miss out on quite a lot of return in the meantime. So I think we've done what we can to get ahead of it through the funds we've invested in. Otherwise, it's kind of exclusion policies, which has gone against the fund's beliefs in the past.
Thank you. Happy? Stephen? Yep.
Happy's not the right word, but yeah, no, that's it. Thanks for the insurance. Thank you.
I was going to say you didn't really look particularly happy. It's too nice a day to be sitting in here. But, any further questions? Moira?
I just wanted to ask in relation to 4.11 on page 71, it says that 5 of the 11 Scottish funds are in the IIGCC initiative. Do we know what the other 6 funds are involved with?
I can't confirm for them all. However, the sort of principles of responsible investment, like PRI, was the other option available to us. However, it probably asks for a lot more sort of engagement, and because we're like invested in pooled vehicles, we didn't feel like that was a pragmatic route for this fund. And I know certainly the larger funds are members of PRI, which obviously ask for that wee bit more engagement. And then I think some of the smaller funds are probably still in sort of similar situation to us, that are having to assess their options. But again, there's 5 signed up to the IIGCC at the moment, and again that's enabled them to offer a discount to the Scottish funds, just given the number that are already members.
Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Firstly, apologies for my late arrival. Bit of an emergency at home, but now I'm here. I hope I've not missed this question. Looking at page 71, and it's 4.16 about the McLeod remedy, and it says that we're making contingencies and we're going to do something about that. Do we know if we've got an indication of how much that is going to cost, how much it's going to impact on the pension fund, and do we have an indication of when it is going to be finalised so that we can take things forward? Thanks.
Thank you, Karen.
Stuart disappeared at the right time. Yeah, so the McLeod remedy, I think previously the actuary had given the committee an update, and I think the most up-to-date update was cost was going to be in the region of £1 million. However, it does require a number of records, a significant number of records to be reviewed. So obviously, as we highlighted at the last committee, the government have passed the regulations for how the remedies to be applied. So now pension funds have got to do that work of sort of going back and sort of recalculating anyone who's impacted by that remedy to recalculate their pension benefits. And that's what this is getting to, that's a significant admin burden at the moment to have to go and sort of manually review all of those records. So that's a significant piece of work that needs to be done. At the moment, my understanding is that's been done as and when people retire to just make sure that that remedy is applied. However, we need to go back and assess all the records that could be impacted. So like, rest assured that the pensions being paid are the correct amount, but it's just that we need to almost make sure that all members are aware of what the implications are if they're impacted by the ruling. So again, that's where the sort of resource requirement comes in. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. I mean, my understanding is that this goes back to about 2015, so there will be people who have retired who will, I mean, you've just said that everybody's getting paid the right amount at the moment, but if it goes back to 2015, surely there was some retrospective payments and adjustments to be made.
Yeah, there was, but you've got to bear in mind that there was those that retired within 10 years were already protected from the sort of, there was a sort of, I can't remember the right word for it, like a sort of introduction period where their benefits were protected. So it's only really now starting to impact on members that didn't have that protection.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Nope. Move to the recommendations. Members are asked to note the update in relation to the implementation of the agreed investment strategy as detailed at paragraph 4.1 to 4.5. 2. Agree continued membership of the Climate Action 100 Plus and for the fund to become a member of the Institutional Investors Group on Climate Change, IIGCC, as detailed at paragraphs 4.6 to 4.12. 3. Note the current and emerging issues that will impact on the pension fund as detailed at paragraphs 4.13 to 4.17. And 4. Note that further updates on these issues will be brought to future meetings of the subcommittee and board as required. Thank you. So we now move on to our annual training plan. This is another standing item on the agenda and includes the results of the skills and knowledge questionnaire, which highlighted broadly similar levels of knowledge across the subcommittee and board. The report also presents the training plan for 24-25. Ross Fraser is here to answer any questions any members have, potentially including why was the questionnaire so long. Be anything to add, Ross?
Not at this time, no.
Councillor Thompson.
Thanks, Chair. So I'm just looking through the pie charts for the survey responses. And there's half a dozen, 5 of them maybe, that have, somebody's responded or people have responded with there's no knowledge in that particular sort of theme. So I'm just sort of wondering, I think one of them was on the discretions as it happens, but I'm just sort of wondering, in terms of addressing that, will there be anything brought back to or offered to members just to say, well, actually, we don't want you to know nothing. I mean, we're happy enough that you know something, and obviously it'd be great if you knew a lot. But how do we how do you address that going forward to sort of tackle those areas? Obviously, this is there to inform maybe how your tactics for developing the pension subcommittee's knowledge and the pension board. So, what are you offering to sort of to help with that, or is it sort of self-managed?
It won't be entirely self-managed, but we will look further into the detail that these results have provided. Look at sourcing training materials that would build on this. I think it does emphasise in the report that we're going to build on existing knowledge and enhance, where, as you have pointed out, where there are gaps. So that will be brought to future additions to the training plan at the next committees.
Thank you. The observation I made about it as well was the fact that it was people's interpretation of what their own levels of skill were, and maybe some people have got a more inflated or slightly lower because they're talked.
Yeah, and there's pros and cons to that sort of self-analysis, but the fact is that we've obviously given it some weight because it takes up a fair amount of pages in our report, so it's public, and we obviously attribute some weight and value to it. So I do take your point that it's quite subjective, but equally, if it wasn't worth anything, it wouldn't be here. Do you know what I mean? So it's how do we make the most of it? Thank you.
It is good, and it's helpful for forming the training plan going forward. So, are there any further questions on that? No. So we'll move to the recommendations. Members are asked to note one, the results of the skills and knowledge questionnaire, which was previously circulated to members of the subcommittee and board as Appendix 1. 2, the new record of... Oh, Linda Dorward, Councillor Dorward.
Thank you, Chair. I'm using my iPad, so I'm not the best on it. And this is not a reflection of anybody in anything, but in terms of Appendix 2, there's mandatory training that is required, and some of it's still in progress. How do we address that in terms of mandatory training that hasn't been carried out in terms of the role and responsibilities of councillors? Thank you.
Yeah, just to confirm, we have been in contact with the individuals that are not yet complete, just to make sure that they're aware of the requirement and have offered assistance, and we'll continue to do that. And we appreciate that the demands on members are a lot at the moment, and we try to kind of make training optional and as able to do things in your own time as we possibly can, just for diary management. But rest assured that we have got sight on those that are not yet complete.
Thank you.
Thank you. So back to the recommendations. 2, the new record of training and training plan for 24-25, as in Appendix 2 is the question there. And 3, that updates to the new record of training and training plan for 2024 will be brought to future meetings of this subcommittee and board. So are we happy to do that? Yeah. Now you are looking slightly happy just now, Councillor Thompson, if you don't mind me saying. So, there's no other business for this part of the meeting. So now we'll move on to the exempt items. So. Local Government Scotland Act 1973, consider the adoption of a resolution to exclude the public from the meeting in terms of section 58(4) and paragraph 9, part 1 of Schedule 7A of Local Government Scotland Act 1973. Are we happy to do that? Do we need to leave this